Do you remember how Alice wasn't always in Wonderland? Well, I wasn't always in room. There's a world on the other side of this wall.
What other side?
Jack, this is our chance. You're gonna love it.
What?
The world.
Are we in another planet?
That's us.
Somebody gave me the book and said, you should read this, it's amazing. And I did, and I was very affected by it. My own little boy was around Jack's age when I read the novel, so I think that was a big part of why it struck me so strongly.
I felt such deep emotion while I read it. It gutted me in a way that I hadn't felt from a book since I read Where the Red Fern Grows in 4th grade, where I just sobbed and couldn't stop.
And I thought a lot about it and felt very compelled to get in touch with Emma, the author, because I thought I had a real feeling for how this novel could work as a film. I thought we didn't have much chance of getting it because it was such a phenomenon in the States by the time I got wind of it. Luckily, Emma was very open, and we ended up in a conversation which eventually led to us working together on the film.
When I was a little older, when I was 17, I was walking home from school.
Where was I?
You were still up in heaven. But there was a guy, he pretended that his dog was
What
sick.
guy?
Old Nick. We call him Old Nick. I don't know what his real name is. But he pretended his dog was sick.
What's the dog's name?
Jack, there wasn't a dog. He was trying to trick me, okay? There wasn't a dog. Old Nick stole me.
I want a different story.
Ma is not really a complete character in the story because it's told from the 5-year-old's perspective. She's like a saint. She's just this ethereal figure. He just sees her as his ma, as this perfect being. So the movie became a great opportunity to show the reality of her and the complication of her, and to kind of bring to light a more complete look at her. We were talking about actresses who we thought could play Man, with a very, very short list of extremely interesting actors. And then somebody in the office where I work said, oh, did you ever see this film Short Term 12? There's a great actress called Brie Larson in that, and I watched it. And she's just so spectacular, Brie, in that film. She's so natural. She's not trying to show you how incredible and what an extraordinary creature she is. In every film that she does, she inhabits the part in this very natural way. And that's what I wanted for Man. She read for me as well, and that turned into a fascinating conversation about all the ways in which we could play Ma.
He put me in his garden shed. Here. Room is the shed.
She's kidnapped and placed in this room and suddenly has to grow up in a completely different way. And so when the movie starts, you're seeing a completely different person. I mean, you're seeing somebody who's been in a space with no sunlight, very little nutrition, no chance to be outside, and is just, for the 2 years at least before her son comes along, just time to reflect, just time to think about her life and perhaps feel a lot of regret, and also create a sort of fantasy image as to her life and the way that it was before. And so she's had to step into this role of being a mother and also deal with the trauma of the sexual abuse that's happening quite often in that space. And so her brain is sort of shut down. I talked with a trauma specialist about the fact that when traumas like this occur, your brain is just wanting to survive, so it really can't look at the trauma specifically. It has to shut it off until you're in a place that's safe, and then the brain can sort of bring it up and reflect on it.
Jack, come here. That's us.
Ma, will he find us?
No. He will never find us.
Then with Jake, all you can do with a child part is search and search and search and search in the hope that you will find this gem of a person, this sort of natural kid. And there was, for the extent that I woke up in the cold sweat at nights on this film, it was about that. It was about whether we would find our Jack. And then, lo and behold, out pops this kid out of Vancouver. I just started working with him, and we got some shots of him where he was doing very little, but there was just a presence about him. He has a natural understanding of drama, of pacing, and while he's 7 years old, and that involves a tremendous amount of work to help him find, you know, to help him concentrate, to help him find the through line on a scene. At the same time, it has to be in there. You can't puppet a performance as subtle as Jake delivers in this film.
There was certainly a feeling, a slight under the surface pressure that, you know, this relationship needed to work, but you can't put that pressure on at the time he was 7. You can't make him feel like, you know, this is the person that you got to get along with and let's make this happen. So at first it started with just kind of group situations. We'd go get pizza and the director and the producers would be there and we'd have some Lego and Lego would be there and we could play with that and sort of have bits of conversation but then talk with other people so there wasn't a lot of one-on-one pressure. And he figured out quite quickly that I knew quite a bit about Star Wars, and that's when he was like, it's a boys' movie. Like, how do you know about that? And so every day was just sort of a treat after that initial get to know you. We very quickly became friends, and it was so easy that by the time our 3 weeks of rehearsals were up, we were best of friends.
We shot the film as much in sequence as it was possible to do. I mean, within room, that was pretty straightforward because, you know, it's in a studio, you can keep it more or less sequential. Then once we decided to shoot the room section before we shot the exterior. And that was a tougher decision than you might think because we shot in Canada. We were heading into winter and it would have been much more comfortable for everybody to shoot the second half of the film first and then get into a nice warm studio when the snow came. But I'm glad we didn't because working sequentially really helped him. You know, it's tough enough if you're 7/8 to understand something as big as a feature film role, no matter how much help you have. But if you're chopping that up and shooting the end first, then it's extremely difficult. And I think it was a very wise decision to go sequentially.
Shooting in order was kind of vital in that way, that if we're doing a scene where you're going through the day and we're brushing our teeth and then we got to pick out our clothes on camera as to what we wanted to wear in the next scene, and then they filmed us putting it on and they filmed us putting it away, and then we just kept going. So we kind of became in charge of every aspect of that space, which I think transferred over into this very lived-in feeling on screen, that we knew every aspect, every corner of that room. It was so ours. We had built those toys, we had made the drawings that we had put on the walls, and we chose where everything went. So that space for me and Jacob was a very comfortable place for us.
Joy, he's really doing fine.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm supposed to be happy.
You just need to rest, okay?
No, I don't. I don't need to rest.
That's what the doctor
That is not what the doctor said. You don't know what he said because it was a confidential conversation and you don't know what he said.
All right, all right. I feel like you're impossible to talk to right now.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, you're not sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
When she's talking with her mom, suddenly you see this girl. You see the 17-year-old girl that's not Ma, it's 17-year-old Joy. That in some ways would remind you of no matter how grown up you are, whenever the holidays roll around and you come back home and have to spend 2 days back at home with your parents, you just like immediately revert back to being a teenager. So it's a combination of things that would actually be realistically happening in this type of situation, but also finding ways to make sure that there was this universal aspect to it, that when an audience was watching it, they related to it as being something that was true from their own lives and not something that was so far away or so bizarre that it didn't make sense to them.
I think part of its impact is that it does reverse the expectations of an audience. So an audience goes in really thinking that, okay, I've heard there's something very positive about the film, but, they think from the tagline it's going to be very, very hard. And then, okay, it's extremely intense and dramatic and it does get your heart pounding in places. But it's this reversal of this discovery that what you're really watching is something extraordinarily positive, I think, in its optimism about human nature and its capacity to kind of preserve itself in very difficult circumstances. And that's a wonderful thing. To bring people into a film and to surprise them with where it takes them is a thing that happens more and more rarely, I think, in cinema. And when it does happen, people's engagement with that is so much stronger.